Welcome back to your learning journey in the statistics and probability for data science. Now in this video, we'll talk about the measures of spread. So as we proceed today, we'll look into the concept behind this measures of spread. What are the various measures that we have got when we are measuring the spread in a given data set? And we'll deep dive into the concept of range and interquartile range, which is a commonly used tool when we are checking the measure of a given data set. So let's get started and let's start by understanding what exactly is this measure of spread. Now, in this measure of spread, it actually describes how far apart the data points lie from each other from the center of a distribution. Okay, you are already aware about the center value in the distribution, which we have covered in the last video, that is measures of central tendency. So this measures of spread tells me as how data points lie from each other from that measure of central tendency. So that's the overall idea behind this measures of spread. Under this measure of spread, we've got range, interquartile range, standard deviation, and the variance. So these are the four types of measure that we use it to describe the spread of a given data set. So now that you are aware about what exactly is this measure of spread, now let's look into the concept of range and how does it help us in describing the data. Now in statistics, the range is actually the difference between the highest and the lowest value. It's just a difference. Okay, and this range tells us the spread of data from my lowest value to the highest value in a given data distribution. And as you can clearly see, it's very easy to compute. Now to help you understand how do we normally calculate the range for a given data set. So let's take up an example. Let's say I've got some values like this: 40, 15, 20, 35, 66, 87, 92, and maybe 12, 7, and so on. So these are the set of values that I've got in my data set. Now the range is given by the difference between the highest value and the lowest value. So that is the formula for range. Now in this given data set, so what is the highest value? As you can clearly see, the highest value is 92. And the lowest value? Yes, the lowest value is 7. So the difference between 92 and 7 is equal to 85. So the range for this given data set is given by 85. So this is how we calculate a range for a given data set. Now you might be wondering, how useful is this range? Well, this range generally gives you an indicator as how variable, that is, what is the variability that you have got in your data distribution without extreme values. Now when you pair these values with the measures of central tendency, you get the overall span of the distribution. For example, the range that you have got is 85, and let's say you have got the mean value. Let's say the mean value when you calculate it, it is around, let's say 40 or something. Then that will give you, okay, so what is the overall range that I've got in my data and where does your measure of central tendency lies. So that will help you to calculate, or that will help you to check for an outlier in a given data set. Okay, now that you are clear about the concept of range, now let's look into the concept of interquartile range. Now when I talk about this interquartile range, so interquartile range tells us the spread of the middle half of the distribution. It describes the spread of the middle half of my distribution. Now whenever we have the data, so by calculating this interquartile range, so we'll be generally splitting the data into 4 parts, as you can see like this. Now the middle value on the left side part is called as Q1. The middle value on the right side part is actually called as Q3. And the overall median value in my given data set is actually called as Q2. The interquartile range is given by the difference between Q3 and Q1. So this is how we calculate the value of interquartile range. Here, in order to calculate this interquartile range, let's take up an example. Let's say I've got a data set. Now to help us calculate everything, I'm going to open an Excel sheet. Now this is the Excel sheet. Now on this Excel sheet, I'm going to add some example values so that we can follow along in an easier manner. Let's say I will have some values like this: 48, 52, 57, 64, 72, 76, 77, 81, maybe 85, and maybe 89. Okay, this is how the values are. Now, as you have learned in the last video, in order to calculate the median, because here in my given screenshot, that is in the slide, I have just mentioned that this describes the median, that is the middle value. Now, in order to calculate the median, the first thing that I have to do is I have to sort this given data. So let's sort this given data. I'll maximize this so that you will have a better visibility of the values. Okay, now I'll select the data and I'll sort it. Now, once I have sorted this given data set, the next thing that we have to do is we have to calculate the median. Now, in this given data, one thing that you can observe over here is we've got even number of values. So when we have even number of values, the question is, how do we calculate a median? When we have got even number of values in a given data set, the way that we calculate the median is the average of the middle 2 points, which means I'll take the average of 72 and 76, which is nothing but 72 plus 76. Okay, and this entire thing I'll divide by 2. So that is the overall value of median. 72 plus 76 by 2. So 74. 74 will be a median for this given data set. So let's calculate the same. So median. So I'll calculate for this given data. As you can clearly observe, the median for this given data set is 74. Now, once I've got the median value, I'll highlight this in a different color so that you can remember. So once I've got this value of median, okay, now I have to calculate the value for Q1 and Q3. So this median is also known as Q2. So the values that are greater than 74, I'll call it as Q3. I'll highlight in a separate color. I'll highlight in green color. Okay, so this would actually mean the other range. Okay, and this will be other range. So I'll highlight in a different color. Maybe I'll highlight in this color. Okay, now in order to calculate the values of Q1 and Q3, so on the set of points that is present in this gray color, okay, so these set of points, for these set of points, I'll have to calculate a median. The median for this lower ranges, okay, or we call it as a lower quartile, that will be my Q1. So what is the middle value in the sorted data? Yes, the middle value is 57. So I can say this 57 as a Q1. Okay, in the same way, I'll calculate the middle value in this upper quartile. So what is the middle value in this upper quartile? Yes, the middle value over here is 81. So 81 will be called as Q3. Now to calculate this IQR, that is interquartile range, okay, so it is just the difference between Q3, that is 81, and 57. So if I equate it, this is actually called as IQR. The difference between Q3 and Q1 is actually called as IQR. Now, why finding this IQR is important from the data science perspective? See, the reason this is important because when we are working with a data set, based on the value of IQR, we will be checking whether a given data set has the outliers or not. And we'll talk about it as we proceed in a learning journey in your future learning sessions in this statistics and probability for data science video series. But remember, finding the IQR is very much important, and especially if you're a beginner, this is one of the most commonly asked interview question. Based on this IQR, so it will help us in checking for outliers in a given data set. And the other way to represent these values for Q1, Q2, Q3 and the IQR in a given data set is with the help of box plot. So we'll talk about the box plot as we start looking into the various methods of describing our data set, especially in the next section. That is when we talk about exploratory data analysis. That's when we start talking about the box plot. So having the knowledge of IQR is very much important, team. All right, now that you have the idea about this range and interquartile range, so with this, we come to the end of this today's video, team. Now, for the references of the example Excel sheet that I've used right now, as well as any slide references if you require, so you can check out on our course page. So you can just join over there for free and download the course content from our website. So thank you so much for watching, and in the next video, we'll proceed in our learning journey and we will implement the descriptive statistics in a hands-on manner by writing the code in Python programming language. So I'm as excited as you are. So I'll see you next time. If you are new to us, please consider subscribing so that you can follow along with us in this exciting journey of statistics.